Can everyone see my slides? I just assume you guys can see it.
I can see it.
Okay. All right. Um, Hi, everyone. Welcome to CMU. And some of you may have seen the talk I gave in the spring when you were for the open house. And in today's talk will be very brief. So I'll just give a high level idea of what problems I've been thinking about, what I've been working on. And since I'm asked to give talk 5 minutes before, I will have to switch my slide deck in between to a different slide deck, which has the half the talk. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so let me begin. Okay, sorry. Okay, so all of you must be aware of that how successful machine learning, specifically deep learning in general, has been in the past several years. And one may argue that the reason for this success is the fact that we are now able to solve very complex tasks to a good extent. But I would like to mention, or I would like to strongly argue that deep learning success is not because we can solve complex tasks like finding cats in images. It's because of the fact that once we train these networks, they transfer really well to a wide variety of tasks. For instance, in vision, you can train on classification and it transfers very well to detection, segmentation, boundary, and whatnot. The same story has been observed not just across vision, but also across speech, language, and in fact, for many of the papers and many of the conferences right now, you can just follow this standard recipe. Like if you are trying to solve any new problem, all you have to do is go to internet, download a pre-trained model, whether it is ResNet or BERT for language or anything else, then collect few examples for your own data for the task, and just fine tune the last layer. And more or less, surprisingly, you are able to declare victory in the task that you are trying to solve. And this is really amazing. This is way far than we were in 2000s in terms of the performance in several of these downstream tasks. So one of the questions I'm really thinking about these days is, can we translate the same success to robotics? Because it seems like in robotics, we're still stuck in the 2090s, where generalization really suffers to complex tasks. You might have seen all these amazing results from Boston Dynamics, where robots can do lots of uh, things and they can perform all these very impressive maneuvers. But when they are generalized to very simple tasks of putting a block, the failures are really catastrophic. And you can imagine why, because the problem is open world, it's unstructured input. These agents are acting in the regime of non-IID data, while all of our previous models are in the IID domain, where we have a data set of passive things and we train on those. And this problem is really challenging for multiple reasons, because we cannot apply the same success we have achieved in vision, language, or speech to these domains, because it's unclear where do we even train on for this task. Like for ImageNet, I give the example of classification. You train on ImageNet and you can transfer to boundaries and all separate tasks. In language, you can train a model for language modeling, and the same model can adapt very quickly to several of these tasks. But in robotics, which task do you train on? Like if I just take a regular day in the lifetime of any agent, which is a human here, there are so many tasks we do over here. And if we go about collecting labels for each of these tasks, we'll burn out $1 billion in a matter of month just to get labels for all of these tasks. So it's really unclear where do we even start if you want to tackle this problem of generalization for robots or embodied agents in general. The second problem is that well, there are so many robots, and which robot do you even train on? Like every lab, every company has a different robots customized to their needs. Like this robot over, oh sorry, the first robot over here is an example of robot from NASA's Dexterous Manipulator. Like nobody has this robot. Like how can you build a system of pre-training where I download a model from internet and apply to this robot? This is kind of very challenging. It's also hard to even imagine how do we even proceed about these problems. But in nature, we have seen different kinds of generalizations, which we are very far away in AI. For instance, if we, like as humans, we can walk on 2 legs for 1 leg. Several of the creatures can generalize and just walk after birth. We can generalize to several tasks. So what my research focuses on is taking the ideas and inspiration from these fields in cognitive science, evolutionary biology, and neuroscience, and use these ideas to loosely aspire and build systems that are practical at the interface of learning, vision, and robotics. And fundamentally, I'm taking a multidisciplinary approach to solving these problems. Because if you really want an agent that can generalize to any new task or environment, it has to reason about its own perception, it has to know how to learn over time, and it has to be embodied and collecting its own data. So let me show you a couple of examples of what do I mean by this abstract concept of taking inspiration from these domains and applying it to tasks. And one of the first example I'll give you in terms of, for instance, reinforcement learning or robot learning. And one of the most common approach for learning for robots today is reinforcement learning, where the way it works is as follows. That you might have seen these results from DeepMind or OpenAI, all these labs, where they can solve this game by only looking at the pixels of the screen and applying actions on the keyboard. Now, this is really surprising because you are not providing any domain information. It's a very loose supervision. So how is it that these agents are able to learn so well? Well, the catch is that all of these results rely on this reward from the games, which is a very dense supervision. So it provides a supervision at almost every time step. Even in tasks like navigation on the right, most approaches today supervise the reward function by providing apples in between, even though the goal is to reach some target location, just to shape the reward function, right? But real world does not give you apples. In real world, the reward could be delayed by days, months, or year, such that it's hard to propagate back to where you are. So how do humans know what to do such that, like, is this girl over here trying to optimize some reward function to become pilot 20 years later? Like, does she backprop gradients from all the way to the future to her current state? Not really. In fact, psychologists argue, again, taking inspiration from the development of psychology, that these human babies are driven by something known as intrinsic motivation or curiosity, where they basically explore without having a notion of external goal, just for their own fun and for their own intrinsic curiosity. And they learn skills which can then be combined to, uh, uh, to, to, to solve complex tasks later in the process. And but how do you define this? How do you take inspiration from this and define an idea over here? Well, the way we approach this problem is as follows. What we decided was to build a model of how the agent is working. So one of the central ideas that I have exploited in all of my research across various domains is the idea of a prediction. Now, so the first step is to build a model of how the world is working, so how the agent is moving around, what actions it is taking, and then use the model to make a prediction about the world. Like, if I do this, what will happen next? And then you can compare your prediction with what is going on in the world, and you use the signal as an error, or this prediction error as a signal to guide your curiosity, to guide the agent. Now, if you are curious about some scenario, if you have high prediction error over here, the agent will go back and explore those scenarios even further to collect more data. And once it has more data, model will improve, prediction error will go down, curiosity will be low. So then the agent will be forced to go somewhere else to find things, to find about things, to explore things which it is curious about. So in a way, by just exploiting this idea of prediction, these agents can continually learn on its own to make progress. So for instance, over here, just to show you one toy example of, to give you some intuition, we take this game over here and we hide the reward function. Now, agent has no idea what to do in the game. So it is just jumping around, wasting time. Sometimes by mistake, it may move to the right or kill an agent, but it's not doing anything meaningful. But as we apply this idea of prediction and guiding the agent to the places where prediction is high and continuously evolving and learning it, it ends up learning to play the game as a side effect. Even it has no idea what the game is about, what it is. That it's not taking coins for the sake of taking coins. It's just exploring the world to guide its prediction error. And it can just go on and on. And it goes much farther than I could go in my childhood. I don't know if you have played this game, but some of you might have. It's like a bit very old. Okay, but we have applied this idea to several domains beyond this environment. For instance, we have applied the same idea to several of these Atari games, to robots that walk, that can do several things in this DM control, to also real robot that can go and tie knots in images, which is very complex task because it's very deformable. We applied this to pick and place task, navigation, whatnot. And so these environments are all the standard environments but we made one change, and the change was to remove the reward function from the environment. So there was no supervision, and the agent was still able to find its own supervision by prediction and solve most of these tasks. Now, the second problem I mentioned in the beginning is, so first is generalization across tasks, because there are so many tasks over here, and curiosity or prediction error could be one way of guiding the agent to explore or generalize to new tasks. But what about generalization across robots? I mean, we have so many of these robots over here. Can we generalize or train a policy that can function across diverse situations of the agent, and can also generalize, like in vision or in language, where we can generalize features from one task to several other tasks? Can we generalize a policy for robot control from one robot to other robot? But note that unlike vision or language, this problem is actually uh, much harder, because over here, each robot has different number of actions, different number of motors. It has different shape. Furthermore, to make these robots walk, you would have to show a different behavior. So there is no commonality, and it's not even clear why this problem should be even possible. So to study more about this problem, we looked at the literature in biomechanics, and we found that surprisingly, that even though different species in nature have different gaits for walking, for instance, humans, cockroach, crab, dogs, but if you study the force pattern they apply on the ground, that is actually shared across all these species. And in fact, there are these precocial or super precocial species which just start to walk as soon as they are born, which means that they are able to distill some general locomotion patterns even without practicing in their own lifetime. So which means that it should be a possible problem to distill or learn these motor primitives to generalize to new scenarios. But note that we are not trying to hardcode these primitives. What we want is for them to emerge as a process of learning. And here is a general result. Okay, so what is the key idea? How do we do this? Well, the key idea that we exploit in this framework is of modularity. So in nature, everything is modular. Like if one of your hands stops working, the other hand can still function. And so we leverage this modularity to learn a compositional structure at the level of software and the hardware of the agent. And the key idea is that instead of learning a policy for the agent, we learn a policy for agent's motors, and we share it across all the motors. Now, the full approach is more complicated than that, because you cannot just share the policy everywhere, because hands function differently and legs function differently. So you have to still have some communication between them, and we learn that communication. But this is the key idea which is behind this approach. And with this, we are able to train a single policy that can actually work across diverse variety of agents. Like it is able to show different behaviors across all these examples. But this is kind of boring, because what I'm showing here is the performance that which was on the agent that it was trained on. But can I generalize this to very different or unseen agents that were never seen at training time? Like inspired by this idea of compositionality, are these policies actually inferring something which transfers drastically to out of distribution agents? And so, for example, some of the examples over here are of these robots. So these robots are entirely different what it was trained on. Like it was never trained on such weird looking agent over here, but it is able to discover this gate of doing this thing. It has very super high agent. It discovered some new gate at test time to make this move forward. Now, sometimes the hard task is very hard. It has never seen 4 legs before. So it is not able to walk forward, but it is able to still balance and not completely fall over here. This one has very heavy hands, so it just tries to use knees to move forward. And note that this is all happening at test time. We are never training for any of these agents. And these slides are slightly old. Now I'm realizing, because the results are much worse than I have in the latest version. So sorry about that. But anyway, let's move forward. And sometimes it does fail to generalize. For instance, if you make the limbs a bit too heavy, so there is not much muscle power to make these agents move forward. And over here, there are no legs, so it cannot really walk. So it uses hands to try to move forward, but kind of fails over there. And the reason it is happening, because it's completely modular. You are sharing the same policy at all locations. And we are also attempting these ideas in the real robot systems. in some of our recent works. Let me quickly switch the slide deck because I think this is a slightly old slide deck, as I said earlier in the beginning. Just a second. I'm all over the place right now because I have a workshop talk to give in an hour, and I was just preparing that instead of this talk. So you just get to see my segregated slides. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I gave you some of the examples of where we took ideas like curiosity or modularity and applied them to real robotic systems. And I will just walk you to give you a flavor of what are the problems that I'm interested in my lab. I'll give you a flavor of the projects which are ongoing in the lab right now. So for instance, this is one of the recent papers which we are very excited about, and this is work by Shikhar, who is actually a first year CMU PhD student. And what we do over here is we take inspiration from the ideas of dynamical systems. You might have heard or learn about them in your math 102 or 101 classes. And these dynamical systems are used to describe the motion of planets around the sun, or fluid motion, etc., etc. But in this project, what we see that can the same systems be used to describe the behavior of the robot in an end-to-end manner. So we use the structure of these dynamical systems in an end-to-end deep RL or imitation learning framework. And we show that providing this structure actually makes the robot policies learn faster and learn more improved policies. We are also, like I talked about vision and robotics, we are also learning on combining these ideas together. So for instance, in this work, there is a lot of work in the locomotion literature where a robot tries to locomote and walk on its own. But in most of the cases, the vision component is either separate or not there at all, or is loosely connected. There is no tight integration of vision and control of the robot. In this project, we are trying to use vision as a gyroscope. Like you can think, if you look through your eyes, and if you fall slightly, you get a very high resolution signal from the optical flow from your eyes that you're about to fall. So you can actually use vision as a gyroscope to guide the agent. And it's a much higher resolution signal over here. You can also learn from experiences of third person. You can watch third person and try to imitate in their own manner. And also, if you want to make the agent curious and learn in long term, you don't not only want the agents to be learning from supervised data, you might want to learn representations which are learned continually by the agent itself. And we have some work in the vision domain as well in trying to learn these representations. And another way of learning the representations is building generative models of the world. And the hope is that these generative models can actually learn the representation of the world. And finally, we also work in the optimization domain, which is trying to figure out how do we change our current optimization such that the algorithms that we have for IID settings like SGD, etc., how do we adapt them to continuous setups? And these are the list of problems that I think are quite relevant and guiding the big story of building continually evolving machines. You are welcome to look at them later. One last point that I am myself in Bay Area right now, but I'm moving to Pittsburgh next week. So that's why my video is off, because it's my home is just mess right now. We are just packing up. But while I'm here, our lab is already ready to move in whenever this COVID situation allows us to in the future, hopefully. But our robots are already there, and we'll be setting them up in the lab very soon. So they have already arrived in Pittsburgh while I'm here. I'll just end over here and ask for any questions and just leave with this slide of future directions. Thank you.